In this video, I'm going to talk about the real reason why marriages fail, and it's not what most people think. There's a surprising and very common phenomenon that can sabotage a marriage even with a great partner, and this applies to almost all of us. Then I'm going to talk about how to heal this using EFT, so at the very least your marriage will be much more peaceful and loving, and overall much better. And for the 50% of marriages that typically fail, this can save your marriage from getting a divorce. My name is Stefan Gonick. I'm an expert EFT practitioner, trainer, and founder of the Soulmate Attraction Academy from singletosoulmate.me, and this is Love Talk Q&A. Second marriage divorce rates are not encouraging. 50% of first marriages end in divorce, but 60% of second marriages do. You don't want to be part of that sad statistic. There's a deep reason why marriages fail that is not at all obvious. For instance, there's a common belief that marriages fail due to poor communication. Now, it's true that poor communication can make things worse, but even marriages with great communication can and do fail. In most marriages, there are painful repeating patterns between the couple. It's like they keep having the same fights or painful interactions over and over again. The couple feels like they're stuck in a rut because there's nothing they can do about it. Nothing that they try works. In these situations, it feels like your partner is causing you pain. This then over time leads to a buildup of misery and resentment and emotional distance until ultimately the marriage falls apart or you become distant housemates. So where do these repeating patterns come from? The surprising answer is that they're not really about your partner at all. They're about your partner doing something that reminds you of painful experiences you had as a child with a parent or sibling growing up. And then all of the pain from those painful experiences come flooding in, and you think that your partner is causing them now. You'll then behave in a similar way to how you reacted as a child, and your behavior will then trigger your partner's painful childhood experiences, and then back and forth it'll go. In these painful experiences, you're really having a relationship with one of your parents or your siblings, and it's not about your partner. And since it's not about your partner, it makes it really hard to resolve them. Good communication isn't the solution for this. It does help manage the situation and help you reconnect faster, but it doesn't help you resolve what is really going on, which is something much deeper. Okay, this can make a lot more sense if I give you an example. So let's say there was a man who, when he was a child, had a mother who would scream at him out of the blue for some minor infraction that he didn't even know he had done. And this was extremely painful to him. And his best coping strategy was to get away from her as fast as he could by going to his room or going out of the house. Now, let's say he's married to a woman who does not scream at him out of the blue for things he didn't know he had done, so she's not like his mother. However, periodically she would bring something up to him that was bothering her. Now, just the fact that she was talking about something that was bothering her would cause him to overreact and get defensive because subconsciously he was afraid that she was going to start screaming at him, like his mother. Now, his defensiveness, though, would be frustrating for his wife. And after a while, this would start to escalate things until finally she did actually get a little mad at him, and she would raise her voice some. Still not yelling or screaming at him, just he can finally feel that she is angry. Now, the fact that she was angry at all would trigger all the old pain from his mother screaming at him, and that pain would come flooding in, and then he would use his old coping strategy and would just storm out of the house. Okay, so this is his old behavior. Now, the fact that he stormed out of the house in the middle of this discussion or minor fight would trigger her abandonment wound from her father, and she would stand there crying in anguish. So it would trigger in both directions. It's nearly always the fact that the reactive behavior of the first person will trigger some kind of wound. Excuse me. Will trigger some kind of wound in the partner, so that both people get triggered. You can see from these examples that the true sources of their pain is from their childhood and not from each other. They just keep doing things that accidentally triggers that old pain. Good communication would help them recover faster and come back together more quickly, but it wouldn't do anything to address the underlying issue of triggering each other's childhood wounds, so they'd be doomed to keep repeating it. And it's important to understand that we all have this kind of thing in all relationships. It's the biggest source of pain and difficulty in people's marriages and long-term relationships. So what can you do about this? The great news is actually pretty straightforward with the right healing process. When I'm working with a couple or an individual in a relationship in this situation, we do the following 3 steps. So step 1 is we identify the painful repeating pattern, which most couples are already aware of, though the pattern may need to be clarified a bit. In step 2, we identify the painful childhood experience that's getting triggered in this pattern. And that can usually be done by simply asking, what does this remind you of from your childhood? And then in step 3, we heal 2 to 3 example memories of that painful experience from childhood using EFT. Though in my case, I actually use a more advanced version of EFT called matrix reimprinting, which is even more effective. So for example, in the case with the man with the mother who would scream at him out of the blue, we would heal 2 or 3 memories of her screaming at him out of the blue, and that would take care of it. So the end result, after you do this 3-step process, is that it completely clears and eliminates that painful trigger. The painful trigger goes away. So for instance, that man doesn't get overreactive and defensive when his wife would bring up something that was bothering her, because that subconscious fear that she's going to start screaming at him like his mother is not there anymore, right? And if she does get a little mad, same thing, because he healed that original wound. So if she does express some anger towards him, again, it doesn't trigger that original wound, and he doesn't overact by storming out of the house. And since he's not storming out of the house, her abandonment wound is not getting triggered. So the whole pattern gets eliminated. Now, ideally, you would heal, the triggers on both sides, which be sometimes, in her case, he might do something that triggered her abandonment wound as the first step of the painful dynamic. So ideally, you want it to go both ways. But even if you just heal the painful triggers of one person in a relationship, there's a huge improvement in that relationship, because you've eliminated, a lot of these painful repeating patterns that the couple's having. The marriage or relationship then becomes much more peaceful and loving, because there's less fights, and they stop viewing each other as a source of their pain. So hopefully all this makes sense. Now, if you recognize this is going on in your current relationship, or are concerned about this happening in your future relationship, and would like help with all this, you're very welcome to contact me at my website at singletosoulmate.me and set up a free 20-minute discovery session to talk about the situation. Now, if you're looking for your soulmate, I have a free mini course at singletosoulmate.me as well. It's called The 3 Secrets to Attracting Amazing Love, which talks about the 3 key blocks to finding love, and most importantly, how you can break free from them so that you can finally be with your soulmate. Now, if this video is helpful, it would really help me and other people to find the video if you take a second to like the video. Subscribe to my channel to get the latest episodes of the Love Talk Q&A show. And keep tapping, and see you on the next episode.